Just in month 4 to have a brand new business that's done 1.3 million in Amazon sales on a brand new business, like super profitable. It's not heard of, you know? People need to think through the person they have to become to do the things they want to do. It's almost backwards, but if you want to build a multi-million-dollar company, what does that person look like? For me, that person sat behind a computer all day with this obsessive fire in his heart that he's going to win this game.
You mentioned doing like 100,000 overall a day. You said, these are the 5 steps Jake and I use to scale this brand in record time.
Let me really drill home what it means to create Wi-Fi wealth. Like, most people are obsessed with this idea of $10,000 a month. And what I've realized at the end of the day, you can't.
Okay, today's guest is Rob Oliver. And here's the interesting thing. I actually messed up the booking for this episode. And so Rob and I were delayed in recording this. And what that allowed is we had this 90-minute space of time where Rob and I were just talking about life, music, and business. No cameras. And that actually set the scene for this conversation. And so some context, coming out of college, Rob was depressed. He would smoke weed and play video games all day long. And there's this moment in his story where he sees his uncle, who's an entrepreneur, making money, helping brands sell on Amazon. And that insight inspired a change. From there, Rob started his own supplement company, Genius Brands, which he built from zero and eventually sold for $30 million. But here's the interesting thing. Rob actually reveals in the episode that selling that company is one of his biggest regrets because he thinks if he had held on to it, it would be worth several hundreds of millions right now. And the reason that he believes that is because we are in this unique era. Rob calls it the Wi-Fi wealth era, where there is so much opportunity to build multi-million-dollar brands using Amazon and TikTok. And so my intention with this episode is that I wanted Rob to come on and break down his 5-step framework that he uses to build all of his brands. Interestingly enough, Rob started a skincare company about 5 months ago, and he's taken that brand from 0 to $2 million a month in just 5 months using this framework. And so anyway, I'm not going to say anything more. We're just going to get into it. You are listening to The Callum Johnson Show.
At the top of your Twitter profile, it says, I exited my first brand for $30 million, and I've been building brands ever since. And so it's interesting because in our first conversation, we shared the story behind that. And that first conversation we did is like, it's loved. I know I got messages about it. You got messages about it. And so here's where I wanted to begin. Why do you think that so many people resonated with you and your story?
You see that shirt? Stay delusional. I've realized it's all this social media stuff and what I'm doing is becoming bigger than me. Every single kid out there has that, their inner child has that burning desire to do something, to like whatever it might be, to create, to go against the cultural box they were stuck in. And that interview is actually one of the first times I started to realize it. I stand as a symbol for that. Someone who said, forget this, forget that. I'm not going to listen to them, parental influence, all those different things. And I said, I'm going to do the things I want to do with my life. And I will stand on that passionately. I'm not afraid, we talked about death and all the things that go into that. And I've realized that resonates with quite literally everyone, not some people, like everyone. There's that saying, do it for your 18-year-old self, right? And the older you get, the more that starts to resonate with people. And I think that story has unlocked that for people, but let's take it to a whole nother level. Let's keep, let's make people rich.
Yeah. You know what? I want to get to, it's like you say, we're going to get into how someone can build like a multi-million-dollar e-commerce brand on Amazon in 2025. Like, we're going to get to that. But before we do, I always have to start with the context and the origin. And it's funny because you mentioned kind of like breaking out of that cultural box. There's a quote that you had around like even the origin of starting your first business. You said, a lot of people called me crazy for that, but I've always known the biggest risk I could take in life was never taking any risk at all and being stuck in my hometown working an ordinary job for the rest of my life. Fuck that. Can you talk to me about that? Like, take me back to that origin that starting point of your first company?
If you think about it rationally, which not enough people do, a horrifying thing would be to die living an extremely basic life, like period. Especially in the United States. I know you have a more global audience, but we are allowed and enabled to take meaningful risk. People look at celebrities or entrepreneurs and there becomes this like gap in their mind that these people are so much different, that these people were born with this or these people were born with that. And it couldn't be further from the truth. I mean, I've been around plenty of billionaires. They have normal people problems. They have like they're not different than us, right? They're unique as people, like we all are, but fundamentally they live and breathe the same air, you know, like they have issues with death, like all of that exists. And so if you think about it rationally, why would you ever ascribe to a normal life? Like why? If who grows up as a kid saying, man, I really want to sit in a cubicle for, 40 hours a week and watch Netflix when I get home. Like that's the dream life I envisioned. It is so important to dream massively and then take the steps towards that every single day. Because if you're not doing that, there's no point in life. There's really not. It's that, was it the quiet desperation that most people manifests more and more. And so that's just really how I've always thought about it, bro. And I've had a lot of like universe, God things that make me feel like I'm supposed to be here talking about it because not enough people have, I kind of got like woken up at a young age and that I'm extremely blessed for that. And I feel like it's very important at this stage of my life to bring that message forward. And I want people to believe in themselves. I want people to know they can do it. And then stuff like this, I want to tactically give them the advice when these windows exist to solve the money problem, right? Because that's one of the pieces of the equation. And so I'm trying to bring that forward as fast as possible too.
I want to go back to your context and your early years. You talk about like dreaming. Even when you mentioned it, I thought of you'll hear athletes say this. They have like hoop dreams. Like athletes, like when they're younger, they want to be in the league or something. They'll call it hoop dreams. If you take me back to the beginning, whatever you see as the beginning, what was kind of that dream in your mind? What was that huge aspiration of where you would end up?
Well, ironically, I did want to go to the league. I grew up playing basketball. I told you, like, a lot of guys in my area went to the NBA and I was in those circles. And I think this is really important to start this episode off. We're going to talk like law of detachment and time and like our existence as people. So I have this strange belief that I won't expand upon, but like time in and of itself isn't inherently linear, which is a weird statement. But we all have like a path and these goals that we're supposed to meet and realize. And that's part of our equation, right? So the 17-year-old me that wanted to play in the NBA, I don't want to play in the NBA now. I want to own an NBA team. So these things evolve and they change. I think those are very like cliche dreams that are handed to a lot of us when we're young. Like it's very, you want to be this or that. And then the world changes completely. Like even celebrities nowadays versus when I was a kid, like there was no YouTube. There was no Aiden Ross. Like Aiden Ross is like a full-blown mega celebrity, right? So the future doesn't exist yet from the lens of the child. But that being said, like we all have these phenomenal things we're destined to do. We're blessed with these traits. Like the way I was led to the internet, the way I was led to design and building brands, like that all came when I was quiet or when I focused on me and like, tuned out those the noise. That's when that stuff started to come. And that's why you're going to hear me talk a lot about the law of detachment in general. This is what messes up really everyone nowadays. We get this fixed thing that we want. And the thing isn't even necessarily like real. It's like, like the Miami trap. Everyone's got a Lamborghini and a Richard Mille. And so that 17-year-old kid now wants a Lamborghini and a Richard Mille. He doesn't want to become who he needs to be. He definitely doesn't want to become the person that is capable of owning the Lamborghini and the Richard Mille. Because if he did, then he probably wouldn't even want those things anymore, right? But that's a big thing where we fixate on something like this inaccurate future rather than focusing on becoming who we need to be, removing negative influences, taking the steps, becoming the person. And then the path starts to reveal itself. And that, like, I can look back time and time again when I was hyper focused on becoming who I had to be. That's when, the universe just broke for me on this. Like that. Wow. You start feeling like things are conspiring to bring you where you need to go. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Pretty like a kind of crazy answer to start the thing off, but
no, I like it. Let's keep going. I think it's interesting because you even said it in the beginning, rob the bank. And like, you've been on this journey of just building this personal brand and like this person who you are on the internet, and everything. Like right now, you're 32 years old. Like speaking with you, things are built. Like you've built a business to 30 million and sold it.
My new brand portfolio is going to do 100 million next year, 2025.
Yeah,
That's insane for me to say. It doesn't feel real.
Yeah, that's a crazy number to even think of, to even envision. But it wasn't always like that. And so I want to read this to you, and then I want you to talk to me about this period in your life. You wrote this on Twitter. You said, life was great during college, but then I graduated and I had no idea what to do next. I always knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur, but at that time I was lost. I went through a dark period of my life where I was smoking weed daily, constantly having depressive thoughts. There was no clear path for me to make it. And so here's where I want to go and focus on. Just talk to me about that part of your life. If I was a friend of yours, if I was just a fly on the wall that followed you around daily, like who were you at that point?
I'm not afraid to say I was lost. And I'm not afraid to say I've been lost several times in my life. And for everyone watching this right now, I want you to know, like, whenever you feel those darkest moments, because they happen, I mean, they do happen. When you're at the bottom and things feel empty and nothing makes sense, you are so fucking close to a breakthrough. Like every single time, like you got to gut it out just a little bit longer, but you're being taught something in those darkest moments. When you feel isolated, when you feel alone, that was one of my biggest things. I hated feeling alone. Like there was no one, like it was just flies on the wall. If anyone was observing, you feel empty. You feel like no one knows, like all of that. And that's when it spirals into like, I mean, real depressive stuff. You know, anyone who's dealt with that knows how dark it can get. And when I was in college, like that was one of my first real experiences with it. Well, I didn't have no one told me it's going to be okay, you know, and you really have no choice but to persevere. And what I did then, which I will continue to do, and which is the continual antidote to all of this, is you pour energy into you. You pour energy into becoming who you need to be, and slowly things work out. So picked up and left. I graduated college early. I was sitting up there playing Call of Duty, smoking. Started to put my life together slowly but surely, still having no idea where the answer was. You don't wake up one day and go, oh, I'm going to start a multimillion-dollar Amazon brand. No, you wake up and you go, I should probably stop smoking weed. And I was like, you know what? I should probably get out of this college environment. I'm done here. There's nothing, like, Call of Duty is not going to change my life, right? So I went back home, lived with my parents, started going to the gym, started focusing on that. And slowly but surely you get momentum until, you know, a year later, like, oh, okay, I'm finding this Amazon thing. And oh, you know, and that is the recipe. Like that is, when it is hardest, don't beg someone to come save you. Pour into you, love you. Like love you. The earlier you can learn to do that, the better it's going to serve you indefinitely.
Yeah. You know what I think when I hear things like smoking weed or playing Call of Duty, they're great forms of escape.
Yeah.
Right. And so I'm interested to know, like, at that point in your life, what were you escaping from?
The next phase of life, having to become an adult, you know, having to go figure it out, having to do something in this world. Basketball is my life, my entire time growing up. And all of a sudden I'm at a crossroads. And I'd seen like the best player on the basketball team the year before graduated, and he was still there smoking weed, like kind of helping, like, floating around the gym, like didn't go overseas to play, like really, really lost. And you know what? He's still lost 12, 13 years later. Like has never figured out life. Went from being, that was peak for him. College was peak. And I see that all the time. I don't know if this message has never been received. That's why I think this is important, you know, because I know if you get outside of your comfort zone and like step into uncomfortable places, put yourself into uncomfortable places, the universe starts working for you. But people don't do that.
You know, I'm a big believer in momentum.
Yeah.
And so I think you see it all the time, right? Like we see it a lot, like the positive momentum, right? Like you can almost, we were talking about music earlier. You can feel it with an artist where every song they do is just next hit, next hit, next hit. But it also works the other way around.
Yeah.
And so when you're waking up every day and you're smoking weed and you're playing computer games or you're just fucking around, you're going out all the time, whatever, you're just unfocused, that negative momentum is compounding.
It compounds, yeah.
And I think the thing that's so difficult about negative momentum is that you almost like need to pull yourself out of this like whirlpool for a second so that you can get the clarity to start going up. And so I'm curious, like, what was that moment for you? Like, what prompted the thought of, I'm not going to smoke weed today. I'm not going to play a court. Like, what started to reverse? Like, do you even remember that? Like, what was that experience?
It was very much looking at the star player that year before. I remember his girl had left him too. Like this is like a year later. He had this bad girl. And, you know, when you're the star basketball player on that team, then like they like you, they love you.
Mm.
And then all of a sudden you're not doing anything with your life. You realize like, oh, like falling off's like a real thing. And I've had a great relationship wife, you know, like she's my wife now, but I had a similar relationship. And I was like, man, am I getting, it was when that guy's girl left him. I was like, I don't want to be looking into the future right now. I'm already kind of depressed. I'm already fucking my life away. And I was like, this can get a lot worse if I don't change this. Like it can get a lot worse, you know, like let's extrapolate this out. Like you said, negative momentum the wrong way. And then all of a sudden you're working at, you know, I don't think I'd ever work at McDonald's, but you just see how lives can fall off completely in the wrong direction, you know?
Yeah. You know what, you said this, in our last conversation, you said this, I wanted to give it back to you. You said, I think a lot of people have a mild depression, and rather than address it and be in tune with it and ask themselves why, they start to become indifferent.
Yep.
It becomes just part of their life.
Yep.
It becomes their normal. And so that's what prompted me to shadow my uncle and his business. And so talk to me a bit more about that, of like actually kind of exiting that depression, number one, but then also that starting to push you towards this quite entrepreneurial path.
Yeah. So step one was leaving, you know, my college campus was like 2 hours away from my hometown. I said I moved back with my parents, and that's when I found what my uncle was doing. But again, that's where I don't have a definitive moment where I go, oh, I'm not depressed anymore. But I know I reversed the momentum by leaving, and I know I got back to my parents' house. Is like I started going to the gym religiously. I started eating better. I started sleeping. I stopped smoking weed. And then that ultimately led to finding my uncle's thing. And those are all like fluke circumstances, right? Like just, you know, being on Amazon when I was back then was like just a miracle, a gold mine. I wasn't on the internet. I wasn't watching Ty Lopez. Like I just found this thing because life took me in that direction. But life took me in that direction because I made the choice to get my ass up and leave the bad environment I was in, right? I chose to accept where I was at and reverse that momentum. Where people get lost, at a certain point, that negative momentum flips into victimization. And the second you reach victimization status, it is very, 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 very difficult to break out of that. So that's like another huge piece of advice that I have for everyone. It is no one's fault ever other than like you. Mm-hmm. There's that Nipsey lyric, I'll say it's worth it, I won't say it's fair. It's not fair. The world's never fair. There's always reasons why something bad happens, right? But the second you internalize it as like, oh, these bad things happen to me, rather than I am fucking it and this is where I'm going with my life, that's when you lost. And so that's kind of what I learned. It led me to my uncle, led me to Amazon, led me to launching a business, led me to an exit, led me to here, all sorts of ups and downs along the way.
Yeah.
But
you know what, we're going to get into it, but I wanted to highlight that point because I think it's so powerful, and I think it's going to hit someone, and it's actually going to change. It's going to reverse their circumstances. Yes. Which is that first thing you said of just get out of your current environment.
Yep.
I feel like so often we underestimate the influence of our environment.
Yep.
And so that decision of just like cut it right here and go somewhere else.
Yep.
Is like you can change your whole life based off just that one decision.
I did it again in Puerto Rico. Like you have to force yourself to get uncomfortable. Born and raised in Seattle my entire life, felt stagnant, same thing. Pick up and move 9 hours away, 9-hour flight away. You moved here, right? Life changing.
Yeah.
I think that's super important. Like I really do. We don't need to like drill it home, but that is like often step one to reversing negative momentum. Otherwise it's gonna be the same voices, same influences, and it's gonna keep you on the negative spiral.
Yeah. Can you talk about your uncle's business? Like, what is that? Like, what is it that you were seeing at an early point that kind of like inspired the way you approach things?
I mean, to keep it 1,000 with you, like, I don't really fuck with my uncle, and I don't think he's super smart. And he was making a lot of money, like helping brands, consumer electronic brands like car stereo and stuff, sell on Amazon. And I'm looking at this going like, oh, he got a boat. He got 3 kids. Like he's clearly doing well in his life. There's something there. Right? I remember I had my soon to be wife and like all those pieces mattered to me. And I was like, okay, like what does this guy know about the internet? Right? And so that just led me to start exploring. And I realized you could pretty much sell anything on Amazon at the time and do really well. And that's shaped this whole, have you heard me talk about living for a living? Like
No.
it's this philosophy I brought forward that because of the internet, we get to work on things that we enjoy, categories, media. Like because of the internet, we get to choose what type of business we want to pursue because the internet's so broad and there's often something for everyone. And so like Amazon was my first taste of that. He's doing consumer electronics, car stereo. I don't give a shit about any of that. I like going to the gym and supplements. So I'm like, what's the supplement category on there look like, right? And I realized, oh, I can help supplement brands sell on Amazon. And right from then, that's when I kind of started to eliminate this idea of work because I could do supplement stuff all day, right? Like that was like I enjoyed that. And so that naturally like led to this obsession around e-com and supplement branding and all of that. But it's because I chose an area I was passionate about. Like, and that's kind of this whole, like, let me live for a living.
I'm curious, was there fear in the beginning of starting that business? And here's what I mean with that. Like, we care so much what other people think.
Yeah.
And so I just think of the psychology of someone who like, you know, you grew up doing sports, like you want to be an athlete, you have all these friends that go into, I don't know, like the NBA or NFL or any of these sports leagues. Like, is there a fear? Is there like a trepidation in, I'm going to start this brand? And even at the time, right? It's not what, I'm assuming at the time that you started it, building a business on Amazon wasn't exactly what it is now.
It was super fringe. It was like so early. Like it was like weird. It was weird. To start the business itself was not scary for me. I felt like I had the skills. I saw the field. What started to become scary was as becoming successful and people are viewing you in a light, all of a sudden this idea that it could fail, like once expectations are starting to build up, that was something that I wrestled with. And honestly, until this last year or two, haven't really put to bed from like a peace perspective because, you know, like people start telling you you're this and that, like good things. And then that idea that all of a sudden you could wake up tomorrow and it could go away was like scary, right? So I had a lot of moments of that where there's voices, especially the more you succeed. Like my dad was like my first real one where he's like, you know, hey, I want to build $100 million company. He's like, you're this fucking stupid. You're nuts. You should like, you know, stay safe, make sure you're taking care of yourself. Like your attitude is like bleeding over into other places. Like he had this fear that he projected on me, right? And those were definitely the biggest issues as I continued to build this idea that you'd fail and people would view you a different way. And the antidote to that really has been, again, detachment, a level of trust and faith in this bigger plan, and then a very long time horizon, right? Like do not play short games. Do not start something. This is like missed on the internet. Do not start something to get rich fast. It's the internet. You might get rich fast, you know, but do not set that expectation for yourself and think in a 10 to 20 year time horizon. And it's like so healing. All of a sudden, people's micro opinions today don't matter. Right? You know how many people thought I was an idiot or thought this or that they're living their normal lives and they're like, they hate me. They hate me. People that don't like I grew up with, they hate me. They've unfollowed me on social media. They can't see it anymore. They can't take it. And that's not for me to, you know, like highlight. Like I pray that they find what they're looking for, but that's when that victimization piece kicks in. I'm all over the place here. Does that make sense?
No, that makes sense. That makes sense. You know what? I feel like fear is kind of an interesting thing, because fear can it has such a powerful effect on the mind. Like it can make us think things, believe things, see things that aren't even real. And so when you say it wasn't even the fear, because I meet a lot of people that their fear is in just starting the business. It's interesting in your case, it wasn't in starting. It was actually once it started to get successful, that what if this all like crumbles? And I want to go deeper and I want to stick with that. Like why was that the thing that was like, oh my God, that's like the doomsday scenario?
Quick break. 2 years ago, I went all in on my business. And I remember one of the things that I procrastinated about in the beginning was actually just starting the company and registering an LLC. I remember I spent weeks avoiding it, and it was so unnecessary because Taylor Brands, the sponsor of today's episode, makes that process so simple. Taylor Brands is a complete business builder that has everything you need to set up your company for success from day one. You can register your LLC within minutes to keep your personal assets separate from your business assets. That is hugely important. You'll also get access to legal documents, licenses and permits, invoices and bookkeeping. And they even have a business coaching program that will guide you through your first 100 days of business. In addition to that, you get a free personalized business plan. They have branding tools and so much more. And there's one more thing. I made sure that Taylor Brands hooked you guys up. And so when you use the link in the description, you will get a 35% discount. And so all you have to do is go to taylorbrands.com/podcast35 to get started. And when you use that link, not only are you starting your business journey, you're also directly supporting the show. So thank you. Okay, so give me 60 seconds before we get back into the episode. One of the things that Rob breaks down later on in this episode is how powerful TikTok can be as a platform to market your brand. He has made millions of dollars marketing his e-commerce brands on TikTok. Well, here's the thing. Rob actually has a community that teaches people how to market products on TikTok and make thousands of dollars a month as a TikTok shop affiliate, introducing our friends at Your First Dollar. And so right now they have hundreds of members that have gone from complete e-commerce newbies to earning $10,000 monthly on TikTok Shop. And when you join Your First Dollar, you're not just getting lessons. You're also getting access to top coaches. They have daily live calls, a supportive community of like-minded people, and you can complete everything right from your phone. And so if you're ready to get started on your TikTok shop and e-commerce journey and learn how to become a top affiliate, go to the link in the description and join Your First Dollar today. Your future self will be so grateful. Now back to the show.
First off, fuck fear. I mean, fuck fear. The only fear should be fear itself. Like we fear itself. Like that. That's the only thing you should fear, because you hit the nail on the head. It's a powerful emotion that shapes us in a horrifying way. Most people never start because of fear, which is completely irrational. Like we've already talked about it, right? For me, the fear of failing once I'm already at a certain level was ego driven, of course, right? Like people are starting to view you as this and that, and what do those people matter? I adopt that philosophy in everything I do anyway. So why all of a sudden does it matter? Right? So that's more of that introspective, trying to understand who I am and what drives me. But at the end of the day, not letting fear be the thing that dictates the type of life you live is just so important, whether it be starting, whether it be that next phase. If there's biological fear where, we evolved with that. If a lion chases after you, you should probably run. Like that's where it originally evolved. And then there's the world we live in today, where a lot of our time has to be spent consciously reminding ourselves that with all this stuff, like fear itself and nothing else. Like just skirt that away and don't let it creep into your mental.
Yeah. When you watch movies, there's this and this is an interesting digression, but I'll bring it back. When you watch movies, I feel like early on in the scenes, sometimes you see like the characters like aspirations, or you see even their fears, like what their nightmare scenario would be. Then you get a bit more into the narrative, you get deeper into the film. And there's this moment where like the thing they would have dreaded happening the most happens. Mm-hmm. And then they're just in it. And it's like, what are they going to do?
How many times do you see that in real life too?
That's what I was just going to say to you.
Yeah, people manifest that shit. Just like we can manifest incredible things in our lives. When we focus on the negative energy and bring that in every single day, we're welcoming it. I mean, I've seen it time and time again. Like this will go wrong. I know a guy that had honestly like a great girl, and he was always paranoid of her cheating on him, and it shaped his energy, and it brought him into a negative light. And what do you think ultimately ended up happening? 3 years later, she did. And I genuinely believe if the energy would have been put forward towards superstar relationship, superstar couple, that's the world they would have lived. That's the reality they would have created. But where we put our attention and our energy and our thoughts, they materialize in the real world every time. I mean, really. So That's it.
Yeah. Is there a moment for you? Is there a moment in your life like where you feel like reflecting on it now? Because a lot of things we know in hindsight, right? Like it becomes clear in hindsight.
Yeah.
But in the moment, we're not aware of it. Is there a moment in your story where you're like, I almost manifested my nightmare? Like what is that? Is there a moment even in your story where you feel like you are living a nightmare?
There's been moments I feel like I've been living a nightmare, but it's a self-created nightmare.
Like, tell me more about
a
it.
lot of that end of genius, like why I sold that business too early. People are like, oh my God, double digit, 8 million, like 8 figures, like this is unreal. And the truth is I sold that business too early because at the end I created this environment of everything was going to go wrong. Like my team was going to, quit on me. I had a lot of my friends, there were all these issues. And at the end I was literally living like worst case scenario. I didn't enjoy the business anymore. There was constant conflict and that compounded in the opposite way. Right. And that was one of those real, again, like manifestations of the first 3 years. This is like phenomenal energy. Like we're going to run it up. Everyone's going to eat, like go, go, go. And it showed. And then that last year was like, again, life happens. There's like life force and there's creation that can help shape something a certain way. But I guarantee you put this version of me in that seat and this will continually change it. You know what I mean? Like we would have fixed all the issues. We would have taken it to a whole nother level. I wasn't mature enough yet to realize that. I wasn't mature enough to realize what it took to get to that, 9-figure level. Like I said, we'll do 100 million next year. And I think through those moments though, that's when I realized it's really important to be a lifelong student of this, not this game, not just this game, but this world. I want to learn as much from other people and their mistakes and everything as humanly possible. So I don't continually have to learn them myself, right? Because that sets you back. It costs you. And that's one thing people say about me. Like I'm super observant. I want to know people. Like I look at people's patterns. I ask a lot of questions. Like even in your business, right? I'm curious. Like I want to, what are you learning? You're thinking about it like a media company. Great. Right? Like those are, and you look for those patterns in the successful people and then you take those lessons yourself. So again, shout out everyone watching, and keep the notes.
Yeah. Yeah. You know what, actually, because I want to, we're going to get deeper into what you're doing right now and like your blueprint for building e-commerce brands on Amazon right now. But before we do, I actually want to go a bit deeper into the exit from your previous business. I don't even know if you even let your mind go there. Do you think about what that business would be doing if you hadn't sold it?
Of course. Like everything, like there's a real playbook where we're doing a couple $100 million a year and I'm worth $300-400 million with just that business.
You think if you just kept it right now?
I am positive because how things have unfolded with like TikTok and this next evolution, it was there for me, like period. And it is there for me. That's why I'm capitalizing on it. But if I had that with this, like I know exactly where I'd be. Furthermore, I have 2 friends. One of them is about to sell his business for like just under $1 billion, which is insane. And he's, started a year after me. More mature guy. He's like 30, 36. It was like his second rodeo. He already had some business experience. He rode that Amazon wave, ran it up, and then has continually operated, built a bigger company, caught this TikTok wave, and his end result is going to be close to $1 billion, which is insane. But that kind of solidifies it for me. But on that same breath, like, bro, it's a long life. Like we learn and I don't dwell on it.
Yeah.
It's just kind of, that is the nature of that situation.
Yeah. For context, for people that might not be aware, just give some of like the background, like what was that business? What was Genius Brand? Like what was that?
Supplement company and Amazon native. So started on Amazon, and basically the internet as a whole is a springboard where someone like me with no money, like no previous skills, can start something and get to a very meaningful level because of the internet, right? And so like we had Genius mushrooms. We were one of the first people, not, drugs like lion's mane, like good for your brain. And we were one of the first people to kind of create that category on Amazon. And what happens is you can take the internet to the real world. And that's kind of like the next evolution. Like you do Amazon, this guy in particular, like he owns the probiotic category on Amazon, but then he launched in Walmart. Now he's launching in Costco. Like you take the internet and turn it into
You bring it to like brick and mortar.
A disruptive force. Yeah. And not even just brick and mortar. Like TikTok Shop is now all of a sudden like a new meaningful medium, right? Walmart.com, but you diversify it. You take it past the one thing. And so that's where, as we kind of get into the tactics here, like Amazon is a hell of a springboard. Like my dad didn't grow up in an era where you could do something like that. No skills, no nothing, and create out of thin air a 9-figure business, right? Like you had to bootstrap, you had to raise money, you had to get an office. The internet has knocked the doors down for everyone. It's beautiful.
Yeah. You know what, actually, because I think to a lot of people, especially if they, if you're watching this, if you've heard other sort of entrepreneurship, business content, if you just follow like entrepreneurship online, you hear about, these different business models that
everyone knows how to make. Everyone knows how to make money.
Are making a ton of money. So, and I'm just going to name a few, right? Like we have SaaS, we have like the agency model, like service-based businesses. You have drop shipping. I'm just curious for you to like stick onto the Amazon thing. What was it about Amazon specifically, or what was it like? What was the moment for you when you were like, actually, this is the best way for me to go about it?
This is all in hindsight for me, right? Because I wasn't in those niches. Like I wasn't watching this content telling me everything's the best way to make money. And so that's been part of my mission right now. Like, let me really drill home what it means to create Wi-Fi wealth. Like most people are obsessed with this idea of $10,000 a month. Like what model will get me to $10,000 a month? Because of Iman Gadzhi, everyone thinks social media marketing agency is the best way to $10,000 a month, right? And Iman makes $20 million a year selling a course on that. So logically, if you understood that, you go, wait. Selling a course is a better business model than
the
agency. And so I've had a really kind of uphill battle with shining the light on what actually works. And what I've realized at the end of the day, you can't tell people all that much. You can show them though. You can show them. And so when I started on this phase of my life, building these new brands, I'm doing it all publicly. And so you can go back 2 years. Top Shelf was doing $3,000 a day. At the time of shooting this, we've been doing $100,000 a day. 2 years later, I'm putting it all out there, documenting every literal step. And to answer your question, like, why is this the best way?
Yeah.
If you start thinking through like actual wealth again, which is a whole other conversation, but trying to transcend that like ordinary income, you're going to make a couple $100,000 a year. Then it's like, what opportunities actually allow for that? The My First Million guy, one of Sean's best friend, he called me the other day. He goes, damn, because of this current playbook, this really is the best way to go from like nothing to like, $3 to $5 million net worth, which is like a real number. But that was his independent analysis of this world right now, because you're creating a real company. It's something that you don't need a lot of technical skill with, right? You don't need to be a programmer, because I would tell someone who went to MIT and understands like AI algorithms that, hey, SaaS is like, that's great, right? But for the average person who wants to make money online, the attractiveness of this is you get to create something that allows a level of freedom and is simply doable and enjoyable. Like most of those other things, the end result isn't freedom. This actual end result is like, okay, you built a living, breathing entity that exists outside of you and can be sold for meaningful money as a result. That makes sense?
Yeah. You know what? we're going to get deeper into the actual tactical steps that go into it and like your current blueprint.
Yeah.
Because you mentioned doing like 100,000 overall a day right now, but you have one brand in particular, Evil Goods, doing 25,000 a day on Amazon. It's only 3 months old.
How old was that?
I think that Instagram, I don't even know, maybe a month, 2 months.
Yeah. And so Evil Goods, I was going to break this to you on the show because I like surprises. Evil Goods will probably do, and I got a partner in that, so I got to be like a little quieter as we get bigger.
Yeah.
But I think we were just under 2 million last month.
Jesus. Okay.
6 months later.
So it scaled very fast.
It's going insane.
Yeah.
Like actually. Yeah.
You know what? We're going to get deeper into the tactics. One of the things I wanted to mention, in building Genius, it took you 4 years to build that company, right? Mm-hmm. You sell it for $30 million. Can you just talk about, because I think something that's important for me, I want to give people the real picture of what it takes to actually build something.
Yeah.
Not the roses, not, I woke up out of bed and it was just an easy thing to do. So like, can you just take people behind the curtain. What sort of person, what was your life like on a daily basis in building something from zero to what that became?
Yeah.
Like, what kind of person did you have to be?
That's a great question. People need to think through the person they have to become to do the things they want to do. It's almost backwards. But if you want to build a multi-million-dollar company, what does that person look like? For me, that person sat behind a computer all day with this obsessive fire in his heart that he's going to win this game because there's a window here to build this company. This Amazon thing works really well. What does an operator of this look like? You need to be data-driven. You need to be analytical. I didn't look like this. I didn't. Old pictures of me, like, check my Instagram. Bro, this girl goes, you look like you hadn't showered for like a week. I was like, because I probably didn't, because I thought it was a waste of time. That wasn't time spent understanding that Amazon algorithm. Yeah. Dead serious. Like I remember telling my wife, I think a haircut is a waste of time. Yeah. Like actually, I really believe that. So that shows the obsessive fire I had for being behind that computer screen. Like I chose that. And naturally, like I wasn't the guy that was like, oh, I need to cut off my friends or this and that. They just don't want to hang out with you no more. You know, you're this weirdo behind the computer screen.
You don't shower.
No, you don't shower, right? And so, shout out my old teammate, Paul. He used to pop in from time to time, make sure I'm alive, you know? That's love. But that really is the person I became. And that is what it looked like. And it wasn't sexy. And I wasn't posting on Instagram. And I wasn't buying a Lamborghini. Like I was in the trenches, like glued on that computer screen. And I wouldn't trade it for a fucking thing in the world. The end result is what it is. Like I got my time back. I got a level of freedom that most people don't get to experience. And so I think being willing to going into it with a vision of what that person is, you know, who that person is going to become, and then sacrificing around that, you naturally find the obsession. And the obsession is what drives the end result. That makes sense? Like
yeah. Yeah, I want to go deeper into the why. I watched this clip on Instagram, and the guy, he's on a podcast and he's interviewing this guy, and he just suddenly says to me, driven or dragged? The guy looks at him kind of confused. He said, were you being driven or were you being dragged? The person that's being driven, it's like this crazy aspiration. It's this inspirational thing.
It was that.
The person that's being dragged, it's like there's something almost in their past, their childhood maybe, something that happened to them. Their parents said this to them. The kid on the playground called them a loser in front of the whole class and everyone laughed. Like, what for you, like what was the motivation? What was the heart of that obsession?
Well, maybe a little bit of both. Like I told you, I've been doing a lot of internal work lately. I felt driven. Like I felt like every step of that was like I was happy to be there. I was happy to be building. If anyone wasn't with it, they could fuck off. Now internally, like I've had a chip on my shoulder. I internalized things. Like I told you I grew up playing basketball. I was 5'3" my sophomore year. Okay, like people used to shit on me. Like it was silly I played basketball. Like you're the slow, unathletic white kid. Like it was a joke. Couldn't get any girls. Like, so a lot of these things developed like I think if you think about it like a fire being started, that was a lot of the flammable brush being thrown on me, right? That I wouldn't let break me, but you better believe like I never let go of that stuff either, right? Like that my high school love of my life, like what's she gonna say when I'm up this much, right? And so it is weird in hindsight because I would focus on me, and I think that's the right answer. I think I got to the right place, but the motive maybe wasn't necessarily pure. You know, it was very like chip on my shoulder, and I think that's okay at a young age. I really do. Like emotional maturity under 25 is like not great. And at the end of the day, finding whatever you can to become fucking him, like I think it goes a long way.
Yeah. Did you feel like you had something to prove?
Always, bro. Always. To everyone. And it's just, so I said, I don't know where that came from. I do think it's probably a history of, I couldn't have answered this last time we were on the show, but I do think it's a history of like, you know, rejection, like not getting what I wanted. And it led me to the right place. But at a certain point, you let go of that, right? Because at a certain point, it only hurts you. Like who cares if you're bearing that? Like you already won the game. Now you're just running victory laps and spitting in people's face.
Yeah.
It was the Drake thing, right? Like eventually, like you won, bro.
Yeah.
You don't got to keep going.
You can stop playing now.
You can stop. Yeah.
You know, you said the word rejection. Even when you say that, is there a peak moment? Is there an experience that almost like represents that for you? Rejection?
I've got a couple. One of the first ones was I was going to make the varsity basketball team my sophomore year. Like I was so big on the mental thing, and I guarantee you I worked harder than every single other person. And I put that time in, and like everyone else that summer was starting to do fun stuff. And I didn't. I got up at 7 a.m. as a sophomore in high school. Like it's crazy. I ran hills. I like my whole life. And I still remember that tryout. I got called over to the varsity court for one, one session. I remember one of the seniors like picked my pocket and laid it up, and whatever, right? The coaches end the tryout. They go to the back room to put their list together. I'm still hopeful. And I'll never forget, like they put that thing on there, and I was like middle of the JV thing. And I went behind the bleachers and fucking cried like I like crazy. And people tease me for that, right? Like, oh, you're crying. Grow up. Like you're a man. Stop being a loser. And that was one of those things that like I still feel it to this day. Like I feel that emotional feeling of like, oh my God, I put my everything into something and lost. Right. And being 16, I didn't fully appreciate that, like, hey, that was shaping me for a better life. Like eventually I did walk on to the college team. Right? I used all that same fire, but now I had puberty on my side, right? Like I just physically wasn't ready for that team. And that was one of those moments though that definitely created a chip on my shoulder. And another one too, like I had a lot of like, I remember like crushing on a lot of different girls. And there was like one in particular, I've told this story before, but like I wasn't, for a while, I wasn't afraid to shoot a shot. And there was this one I really liked. And we're in the library one day. And for whatever reason, I'm big on music. You hear that, right?
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, lyrics. Like she'll love lyrics. So I remember writing like these lyrics on a little piece of paper and running it over there and like putting it at the table and like running off. And I'll never forget. Like I went back to my little thing, and I remember she read it with her friends, and they started laughing. Like it was like a oh, that's so like, oh, cute. Like what a loser. And that one broke me too. That was like this huge meltdown. And so I think those types of situations developed a level of resentment that I put into myself from a drive and focus and desire to win, like, component. And they say a hallmark of masculinity nowadays is how quick can you turn sadness into anger? And it's true. I mean, it is true. Like in hindsight, it would be much worse to be that down bad loser who never recovered from those things, right? They hurt, but at least I poured them into me. Again, I feel like I'm at a place in my life where now it's like, okay, let me work through those so they can take me to the next evolution in life. But those were the moments.
Yeah. It's funny you say it like that. It's like I think especially with men, but the anger like focuses the mind. Majorly.
It's a superpower. It's a superpower until it starts doing serious damage where it doesn't need to.
Yeah, it can turn the other way. Okay, you know what? Let's get into what you're doing right now. And I read that post from Instagram about evil goods, but I missed out a line at the end. You said, these are the 5 steps Jake and I used to scale this brand in record time.
Yep.
And so I'm gonna read to you the 5 steps, and then we can kind of go deeper into each one. So step 1, we found a winning product. Step 2, we spent months developing it to make sure it has A+ quality. Step 3, we used AI tools to build the brand. Step 4, we started running Amazon PPC ads on relevant keywords. Step 5, we paid 30 creators $500 a month to make TikTok videos to drive traffic to Amazon. So you know what? Let's start right from the beginning. Step 1, we found a winning product. What are the characteristics of a winning product?
So in all of these categories online, you're already like a consumer. You have your interest, you have your algorithm. I do too. We go on our phone, we scroll. We are served ads and different relevant things to our interests. So that's kind of like the basis of finding a winning product. Now I'll give you like some softwares and stuff to really nail it down. But in the purest sense, like I can list 20 supplements that I know will boom next year because I flipped off the part of my brain that's looking at them as a consumer, and I'm looking at it like a spectator. Like I'm observing these trends developing, and it's second nature to me. This was like a huge thing. People are always, how do you find a winning product? Look, that they're literally everywhere. Like, look, like these guys are running ads and that. And so when you start seeing it like that, it becomes super easy. You can validate all of these ideas with, there's like explodingtopics.com. This is a a really cool software that basically aggregates all these different sources, and you know, like they scrape TikTok, they scrape Amazon, Google, and they bring trends together. And so you'll go in there and you'll be like, all right, workout apparel or workout supplements, and they'll show you like the most, you know, the trends, like which is going which direction. That's how Beef Tallow was like screaming at Jake. You know, he was really into his holistic journey. Everything's a scam, like, you know, body care. And so on Exploding Topics, he sees that. Another one, you can go on a tool called Viable View is actually a new one that we use. That's AI again, that scrapes Amazon and Google, like put in your interests and it shows you the total addressable market. Mm-hmm. So like all of these tools paint the exact picture of like what's going on, right? Mm. But I still say at the center of all of it, if you train yourself to be like, open a new TikTok account, go like a couple products that you like, and then just let that algorithm start serving you stuff, you will get a very clear picture of where the money's being made.
Yeah. You know what? When I listened to you speak about it, and it was exactly the same last time, it feels like you're at the point where you have like an instinct for it. Yeah. Like it's hard to even quantify or like articulate. But if you just had to do your best effort at it, when you're on TikTok, because there's so many people, they're used to being on TikTok as a consumer, right? Like, I guess you're looking at it in a bit of a different lens. You're almost looking at it as like business inspiration. And so like, as you're...
all social media, it's like Instagram, YouTube, but that's why I said, make a new account, train a new algorithm, like consciously go do that. And then it'll keep serving you more and more stuff. Like their algorithm is better than like anything.
Yeah, it's an incredible algorithm. But I guess when you're looking at these videos, what is it that starts to get you excited about a product? Like what makes you start thinking more so than like, oh yeah, this is just a one-off cool video? What starts making you think we could actually build something in this space?
Is it something I would use and want? Does it have tangible value in my life? And as far as like evil goods goes, all these moisturizers and skincare products are toxic as hell. And I'm starting to get to that point where it's like, you know, I want, like, getting older, I want better skin. And like, I go, oh, there's like a clear need for this. This serves. So you start educating yourself on the products themselves, right? But assuming you're already in that niche or area, you're going to naturally gravitate towards that. Like I got the guy with the mouth tape. He's obsessed with sleep. Like that's his whole, he's on this like, you know, trying to figure out how he can maximize his sleep score. Oh, okay. Taping your mouth has some good science. Andrew Huberman talked about it. Okay. There's only one other mouth tape company. And wait, what numbers did they do last year? Oh, and they're a bad, you know, poorly run business, and Hormozi's suing them. Opportunity, right? And so that's kind of the framework that and then you go validate it with like Exploding Topics or Viable View or Helium 10. And then you go like, oh, the data says this is a winner and I would enjoy working on this. You start living for a living.
Okay. So tell me that this is, if what I'm saying now is correct or is your process. It's almost like you're kind of looking at TikTok and these social media platforms. It's almost like a way for you to identify consumer desire.
What's going on in the world. Yeah.
Like what people need.
Yeah. That's why something like Amazon's never saturated. People have new trends, like desires all the time. And Amazon is just a reflection of that. But the biggest winner in the Amazon space has been this pet supplement guy. Pet supplements literally weren't a thing when we started. And then they slowly gained steam. And if you were on social media, you'd see it. Like, oh, you know, Kim Kardashian bought her dog. What? Like when those things start to click, you're going, oh, this is a new moment, a new category. And I think that's the best way to actually win, is just being in tune with those. As much as I'd love to tell you like, hey, just go to Helium and type in whatever, because that does work. It really does work. But I think, again, doing that actual work of entrepreneurship, like solving a problem, and because the next piece of this is like make the shit good, right? Like we're actually going to make something that you would use as a consumer. Like I use evil goods, like I'm, you know, and so that's the framework.
Yeah. Would you say, okay, so would you say that because there's like several components to this, right? Like there's the qualitative aspect of like, you're just seeing this happen on the internet. Then there's like the data-driven aspect, which is like when you're going on these websites, seeing the total addressable.
And that's where we validate it, right? Yeah. Like triangulate it. Like when you go use Viable View or Helium 10, it's going to tell you on Amazon, there's 50 other people. Don't touch this category. Like just don't, right? It's just not a good opportunity to go after unless you're going to brute force and spend a bunch of money. Other times, like the mouth tape, which did get banned on Amazon, it's another story. But you look at that and it goes like, oh, this is wide open. You will make money if you're sold on there tomorrow. So we definitely do. I don't want to take away from the analytical
data-driven
approach, but I also think it's super. You're not doing the entrepreneur justice by just saying go to this and type in a keyword and there's your winning product. And that's what the internet tells you, and that's why more people aren't successful.
Yeah. I'm hearing a third thing though as well. We said the qualitative aspect, the data, but it's also personal for you.
Definitely.
Would you say that every business that you start, or like anytime you choose to get into a product,
1,000%,
it's personal?
It's something I'm interested in, and that interest is what drives the obsession and the desire to win. Genius Brand was a reflection of me and my self-improvement journey. If you look how it started, it was natural workout supplements. And over the course of 4 years, we transitioned into entrepreneurial, biohacking, mental performance. And that was literally a reflection of my interests. And all the products remained at the end of the day. Like we still had the workout products. We still had the nootropics and mind stuff. But like right before I sold the company, I started to get interested in longevity. And that's like Genius Eternal launched. But that was the next hot category. But it came intuitively to me because I'm in the space, right? I'm like you really are your own consumer or your own customer. You are your archetype. And when you operate like that, the branding gets easier. Like all of the other pieces fall into place.
Yeah. I wanted to get that for people because I think, like, even for me, we're starting this podcast. So many people said never start a podcast. The hardest thing to grow, long form content is way more difficult than short form. But I knew for me as a person, and that's what I've realized this whole game is. It's all figuring out, like, screw what everyone else is meant to do. Like, what are you meant to do? And
you found something that wasn't being serviced, right? Like there wasn't a podcast that hit the boxes that you wanted to start. Is that correct? Like you had to bring it to the world.
Yeah.
And that's the answer. Like almost every time in every domain.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I love it. Okay. So step 2 was we spent months developing it to make sure it was A+ quality. I think for most people listening, most people that are starting businesses, in the beginning, you don't even have any idea what A+ quality is. Like, let's say even with Evil Goods, like at what point are you like, this is A+ quality? Like, what does A+ quality even mean?
It just comes down to, would you use it? Like if you, there's often other brands on the market. There's products you use in your area. Like for you starting the podcast, let's take it out of the product domain and then we'll take it back. But it's like, if you launch a podcast that you wouldn't watch, that's not up to standard. So A+ quality is like a generality, but the point is you should be willing to use it. So with Evil Goods, there was like one other beef tallow on the market, and Jake did all this development stuff. This was his area that he was really excited about. It was like chalky, like didn't rub in very well. It was still natural, right? So it was still like good, but he goes, okay, I have to figure out a way to beat that. And like, I don't like using that one all the time. So, that's when we found a whipped version and had to do all these different R&D trials. And it was a pain in the ass, but the end result was something he would proudly use, I would proudly use. And that shows for longevity. Like we still could have ran up some good sales in a short, period of time, but the long-term value wouldn't have been there.
Yeah. And you know what? It makes sense to what we were mentioning earlier about the business being personal, which is like, if you're just making a product because you saw a trend and you're not even into the thing, it's like you can't even be the judge of your own product.
Exactly.
You can't be the customer for it.
Exactly. It's not a life you'd want to live either. Like I keep encouraging people the internet allows this living for a living. Like it allows you to work on things you're interested in. And as long as you have the appropriate framework and you set your time horizon appropriately, you're going to lose people because we say it takes months to develop. This is not fast enough. They want their dopamine and their money, and they will stay poor for the next 2 decades, right? Like months is a dirty word to people in the online space, but that's the reality. And that's the framework you have to look through things if you want to change your life. So it's like we can hand people the playbook, we can hand people the formula, and it's on them to do what they want with it.
Yeah. I'm curious to get your perspective on this because, yes, I hear a lot of those people that are just impatient. They want the get-rich-quick scheme. They want something fast, and they end up very disillusioned with what it takes to build something. I also see people on the other end of things. And to be honest, to be really honest, brutally honest, I was this person in the beginning, not with the podcast, but I tried to start clothing brands when I was in university. I could not release any of these products because I wanted them to be so perfect.
Yeah.
I wanted them to be what I saw with Air Jordan and Adidas and Nike. And so like, what about the person that spends months going on to years in the lab trying to develop, oh, we need to go back to, it's kind of almost this procrastination from releasing to giving it to people. Like, how do you know the right time?
That's it's a great question. And I know this, would you say you were scared of starting that business in general?
I was scared what people were going to think.
Yeah. And so you have to figure out how to remove that from the equation, because it's like, we know how you approach stuff, and we know at least one of those pieces was good enough to commercially release.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, and that again ties back, that is fear bubbling to the surface. That's fear manifesting as something else, right? You're giving yourself a reason to not do it. And so I think if that piece of the equation is addressed, then that answer becomes, pretty clear. There's a million things we still could have done better with Evil Goods. And I'm famous for like pushing. But if you're really set on launching that business and you're not worried about what people are going to say, that answer becomes clear. Did I hit something there too?
Yeah.
You were like, oh shit.
Yeah. No, what you hear is, I actually think, because when I started those clothing lines, I was maybe 18, 19. I think that there's a certain self-awareness that it takes to be good at business.
Yeah, that you're lacking at that age.
Yeah.
But that was your lesson, right? And you grew from that. And a lot of people don't get away from that. My YouTube director, God bless him, Michael Drift, follow him on all stuff, but he's a very talented YouTube creative. And he does these movie mentories that a lot goes into them. And by the end of it, it was taking him 4 months to release one. This is before he worked for me. But I had crossed paths with him. I'm like, well, what is going on? Like, it's not that hard to make a YouTube video. I'm respectful of the art, like I am.
Yeah.
But yet something's going on here. And it was a form of self-sabotage. He was scared of the category he was playing in, and he didn't want to put himself out there like that. And the end result was he'd spend 4 months working on a video for no reason. Like, oh, my CGI guy quit, and I got to no, just no, right? And we talked about that deeper.
Yeah.
He's 26.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't until last year where he goes like, yeah, like it was something totally different going on internally.
Yeah.
And I think that's an important thing to highlight, for real.
Yeah. And the thing that's funny with the mind is like, it feels so real though.
You convince yourself easily.
All of the excuses feel so real. It's like, no, but I do need to work on that one last scene.
Yeah.
Or like, I do need to wait for this product update so that we can release this. Like,
what'd you say earlier about fear though? It's such a powerful emotion that shapes things. And what you just did is powerful. Like, I think the more people are willing to talk about those things, it's like not only is it therapeutic and internally, but it highlights things to be aware of for others.
Yeah.
It's so real. That archetype was something I had so much trouble dealing with, because they're very talented people. Like, every time, it's like, oh, I'm just an artist. I'm just a perfectionist.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. But like, like there's something more here at a certain point. And I think you hit the nail on the head.
Yeah. I remember hearing someone, I don't remember exactly who, I wish I could credit them, but I remember hearing someone on the internet say like, there's people out there right now that like you look up to, or they made millions of dollars, or they achieved this accolade that you aspire to. They are no smarter than you. Like, if anything, they're actually typically dumber.
Yeah. A lot of times they're dumber. They don't feel fear. They're think
fearless.
Often. Yeah.
Crazy. Okay. Step 3. We used AI tools to build the brand. What does that mean?
So just like the internet destroyed the barrier to entry for a guy like me to even start a brand like this, AI is taking it even flatter, faster. Like, early Genius days, I'd need to find a designer, give them a like deck, and like, hey, help me bring this to life. Nowadays, you pull up, ChatGPT has DALL-E 2. There's Midjourney on Discord. You can give them a handful of prompts, and they will spit out like literal brand decks and literal design decks from words. Like, hey, like I've gone on there, create a skincare brand this is a little sauce here.
This is ChatGPT, you're saying?
ChatGPT, DALL-E 2. Yeah, DALL-E 2 is built into ChatGPT. So DALL-E 2 or Midjourney it's in Discord, but it's another AI app. Like, you talk to it on Discord. But a little sauce here, I often set like a North Star archetype. So like a celebrity or something, like you're trying to create something that would look good next to the celebrity. So like if I'm gonna do a skincare brand for men or something for the Latin American market, I'd be like, help me create a skincare brand that Bad Bunny would use and associate himself with, with loud colors, and you put that prompt in, and you're gonna get something like real, like I mean very real, like this thing is here now. And so that has really opened up a level of creativity, and it's again removed friction. It's removed that barrier of having to call a designer, having to do this. And I think at that stage, the only fear is that people forget they're all artists and have something to create, right? Like that's one thing I've been screaming. You're all artists. Like you have some desire and burning fire to create. And so this just opened that up for you. And so you download those tools and you start playing around with it. Like you have your kind of framework, and next thing you know, you're going to have at least 80% of that brand done. On Evil Goods, that graphic on the front is AI. Like it's largely AI, which is crazy.
It's almost like, and I've realized this again with entrepreneurs and even building my own thing. People like great entrepreneurs think of things in phases. So it's like you always have like that 0 to 1 phase, which is getting from like nothing to like there's something there on the table, like there's a product. Like AI can get you from that 0 to 1 phase super fast. Like can lay that foundation, but then you still need to provide like some artistic, creative personality source to get to the final product.
But even the AI has not eliminated creativity. I think it's explosively opened it. And what's going to happen again is it's going to shrink the influence. Like a handful of people will be the ones dictating a lot of the shape because AI can copy things so well. But the more you think creatively on that, like Evil Goods does not look like any other skincare brand. It's a freaking Marilyn Manson or a Marilyn Monroe looking screaming lady, right? So that's the creative component. AI just brought it to life. It's a tool to bring ideas to life. And so I'm still doing that when we sit down to create something new. We want to be disruptive. We want to be loud. We want to draw from other interests and bring it into our domain. So what I mean by that, it's like if I'm doing, like one we were messing around with was like gaming, streaming stuff for like a Aiden Ross type character, right? Like streaming's blowing up. Let's make mouse pads and all that stuff. And they all look the same. They all look like that kind of intense, rigid gaming one. Yeah. But it's like, well, I like the St. Regis. So put together something, you got to figure out the verbiage, like, oh, that's neoclassical or whatever. You need to figure out how to communicate to it. But you bring that to the AI and all of a sudden you're going to get something. And sometimes you might go, wow, I'm stupid. I would never buy that. And other times you'd be like, wow, I could see that existing in the future. And that's how the future is created.
You know what's funny actually? And it's I love that this came to my mind. You spoke about it in the first conversation that we had, the Virgil Abloh rule, the 3% rule. And it's almost like what that means now, like when we spoke before, even though it was only like 4 or 5 months ago, AI wasn't in the conversation in the same way that it is now. AI kind of almost like shifts even that Virgil Abloh rule. Can you just explain to maybe people that haven't watched the first one, and they should, but what is the Virgil Abloh rule?
Seriously, watch the first one. We cooked on that one. The thesis is that for something to stick in culture, it only needs to be 3% better. That's it. Like that is the minimum level of improvement needed. So you go from like an existing idea, like, this bag, if you add like something to keep the wallet in there, this now has staying power. Like that is all it really takes. That was his observation. That was his artistic like approach and influence. He would take things like, Nikes and slightly improve upon the design. And to your point, oh man, technology, if that was 5 months ago, think about where we're going to be in 12 months or 5 years, right? So it's a tool to further change the landscape. And the quicker you kind of familiarize yourself with that, the more money that's going to be made, period. Yeah. Like that's kind of the take.
When I heard you explain that, it was one of those things, sometimes people will say things and it like completely opens your mind up to something. And it's interesting, right? Because Virgil Abloh, we look at him as like, I would say, in like the modern day, one of the most creative, artistic people. If you look at what he's mainly known for, which are, in my mind at least, are like those off-white sneakers. He took the Nike like silhouette, like it was already done, and they just put the text on it and that little band, that like the red band that's on the front, and now it's a product that people go absolutely
It's
insane
legendary.
for, and it's legendary.
First off, just for a second too, R.I.P. Virgil. His influence now is starting to be more appreciated, but that is probably one of the most influential people of the last 2 decades who did it all like undercover. Do you know how many album covers he designed?
I don't even know.
Like all of Kanye's super bangers. He DJ'd. He real Renaissance individual. And I've been trying to kind of embody that more because that's how we are as humans. We have the ability to do multiple things. Sorry, I'm getting like kind of hijacked on that. We've lost a lot of great people the last
we have
a couple decades or last couple years. But sorry, yeah. What was the main question there?
You know what though? I'm actually you mentioned real Renaissance individual.
Mm-hmm.
Can you explain what that means? I feel like Renaissance is one of those things we always hear it, and it's like, what is that?
I don't know if this is social media or how we're raised, but we're put in boxes. Like me, I'm the e-commerce guy. I'm the TikTok guy. I'm not that. I love music. You talk to me for 2 hours about music. Do I understand music to a meaningful depth?
Yeah, you love music.
Like I do. And I'm tired of this idea that we're going to be forced in a box as like this one thing. And you look at so many individuals over time, they had multiple avenues they'd thrive in. And the more we as people find those avenues, embrace them, embody them, the more fulfilled we're going to be and the better lives we're going to live. It is unreal how much we're capable of. Like I'm here to show that and tell that publicly. Like I want to be a symbol for that because no one needs to get stuck in one box. You look at like a Kanye West, to go from album after album to then one of the fashion leaders of the world. Like you remember when he first brought out the oversized he's dressed like he's homeless.
Yeah.
And now everyone's doing that the last 3-4 years.
Even like the dad shoes.
Yeah.
Like that whole trend.
It was corny when he did it.
Yeah.
And he brought that forward. But what it takes to go into that world, learn all the rules to the game, and then shatter them is like truly, all while bringing forward My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. All while, he's had like movies. Like that is what we were capable of. That's what Virgil embodied. That's what, all the way back, that's what I said, Leonardo da Vinci, math, science, art. We have all of that in us. And you talk about the quiet desperation that exists today. It's because people are not in tune with that in themselves. It's a scary thing when you start living your dreams because you realize you can dream bigger and live even more. Like really, that's what I'm kind of showing right now. Like my life now is 18-year-old me would have been really proud. And I've accomplished most of the things I've wanted. And so with that, you go, wow, what can't I do? And with that shapes this, like, I told you, I want to start DJing. Like what? Like, I want to start DJing. And it's like, no one's going to tell me otherwise, right? If I really commit to that and pour into it, I'll do that still while being the e-commerce guy. And sorry, this is like could hijack this, but I think more people need to stand for that while still having the practical and kind of tactical, like, one thing at a time. Like we were talking about that. You have other interests and this could be a huge media company, but first it's going to be a successful podcast. And you appreciate the level of work that goes into it. Just like I appreciate what it would take to be a DJ. Like I need to get these brands to a certain level and whatever. But at the same time, fuck being put in a box. And anyone who's embodied that their whole life, like Virgil, I don't think they get enough credit.
Yeah. When you even said the thing about you had these dreams at 18 years old and you're 32 now, and through this like intense, relentless action, you've managed to like realize a lot of them in the space of 14 years. And it reminds me, I saw this post on Instagram from Gary Vee, because I speak to a lot of people that feel like they're running out of time. Yeah. I speak to 20-year-olds that think, I need to get it right now because, by the time I'm 30, I'm like finished. I'm so old. I speak to the 30-year-olds. Why am I not married? Why do I not have this? Why do I not have a successful business? I'm 30. 40-year-olds think they run out of time. Yeah. 50-year-olds think I'm running out of, and I remember Gary was saying this thing. It's like, if you're 20 years old, you have time. If you're 30 years old, you have time. If you're 40 years old, you have time. If you're 70 years old, you have time. And it's like, I think when you spoke about longer time horizons earlier, I think when you change your relationship and your mindset towards time, it kind of you start to realize how much you actually can achieve.
Yeah. I mean, like practically you set your time horizon like long and anything is possible. But more philosophically, like you remove the idea of time from the equation and everything is happening exactly how it needs to happen.
Mm.
And like for you watching this, let this be the actual thing where you go, oh shit, like that actually really resonated with me. And I'm going to move out of my home city and I'm going to pursue that thing I always wanted to. Like really, like you're seeing this at the perfect time. You're not late, you're not early. Like this exists now. Like time isn't even it's like a funny thing, right? And it enables fear and all these other pieces. So when you look at it through that lens, like anything's possible. And it really like you get more in tune with the reality of I'm not so confident I'm supposed to be a DJ. Like the universe hasn't revealed that to me, right?
Yeah.
It hasn't. There's been little seeds planted and I think things will unfold how they need to. But when you're quiet and like on your mission, there's all these synchronicities of like signs and things happening and people are too busy numbing themselves to even notice them. Even that text you told me about the gentleman you want on this show, you do not know how strange that was in my life.
Yeah.
Like actually, like it was like an actual like yeah. And those are all over for everyone, but people ignore them or don't even look.
Yeah. I remember, I think I saw Sam Altman, and this is a slightly different point, but I think it was Sam Altman that said this. He was like, to anyone who's like relentless and like real, like hungry, they just want something. He said it's remarkable how much of the time like the world will bend to your will.
Look at Elon Musk. And I think he's a good embodiment of that statement with he has a quote that I love when you talk about trying to deal with the time thing. Try to do what would take 10 years in a month or something like that.
In 6 months.
Is that what it is?
In 6 months.
Something like that.
Take your 10-year goals and then
do it
make them happen in 6 months.
And you look at that and he does it. And he actually does it. And that's another guy that, isn't it amazing at every phase of life? Like he's the richest man in the world, but he was actually going to go bankrupt like 6 years ago or 7 years ago, you know? And it's like
the most shorted stock in the history of the stock market, Tesla.
And you know, SpaceX was failing. Like we look at it now, we take it for granted. Like, oh, he's this super genius, but he is one of those guys that doesn't feel risk. You know, I met one of the investors in Peter Thiel. I met Peter Thiel and Peter's like, Elon does not feel risk. Like when he bought his first McLaren, no insurance and wrecks it, you know, immediately.
Yeah.
But also 200 million from PayPal and puts it all in future things he wants to do.
Yeah.
Rockets, electric cars, and Solar City. And that is a guy looking, you know, a Renaissance guy, but a guy that's also looking at things the right way. Like, why the fuck not?
Yeah.
Like, why am I not going to do what I want to do and design the world I want? And I'm willing to work for it. Right? People get all into the manifestation stuff sometimes, and it's all powerful. But the truth is you have to work a lot more than you hope. Right? Drake caption. But,
yeah. We could go all day with the Drake captions. Okay. I'm going to bring it back. Step 4. We started running Amazon PPC ads on relevant keywords.
We got out there, man.
Yeah.
Well, this is the step-by-step blueprint to making money. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
We started running Amazon PPC ads on relevant keywords. Can we start right in the beginning? What is an Amazon PPC ad?
So pay-per-click, and it's basically like when you have a product like beef tallow, everyone is bidding. You run ads. So you go on there, and if you choose to bid on beef tallow, you pay every time someone clicks.
Let's even go even deep. Like, what is beef tallow? Like bidding.
Sorry, yeah. So first in that step-by-step kind of glosses over like setting the product up on Amazon, right? So you get an Amazon listing and you send all of your inventory to Amazon. So now you are live on Amazon, but no one can find you, right? No one knows evil goods exists, right? And so you have a list of words that people would search that are relevant to your product. In this particular case, like why it was such a gold mine is the searches for beef tallow are trending up. So beef tallow is it's like a new skincare thing. Like that's the natural alternative to, you know, nasty skincare. People are rubbing beef on their skin now.
Okay.
Tallow, it's like it's like a balm.
Okay.
It sounds like kind of gross when you think about it that way, but the actual product is like, you know, it's like really good. It has all these benefits. And so you're on Amazon, no one knows where you're at. You can tell Amazon, hey, I'm willing to pay $1 for every time somebody searches beef tallow, because now more people are coming to look for that, to show them my product. and there's a bidding system. And when you hear people talk about Amazon being saturated, it's often because there's 100 people bidding for that same word. And so the person with the most money wins. In new opportunities like this, it's like you and 3 people. And so it often becomes who's the best product. And then the real money's made once you organically rank at the top of that search. So Amazon has organic ranks too. And basically if you pay on the PPC and someone, clicks that, you're making money if no one else is bidding. Like a dollar, let's say you have to spend 10 to sell a $50 product, like that's profitable. But then once you're organically at the top of that search, meaning Amazon decides when you search beef tallow, they're gonna place you there.
You just have the most reviews, you're like the most clicked. Like,
Exactly. That's digital real estate that is literally paying rent every single day, right? Like once you're organically there, that's money every day. And so that's the framework for that. PPC words on relevant keywords, and it's broad. It's not just beef tallow. It's like natural skincare. There's all these different searches that people search, you're bidding on. And as you organically rank to the top, that's when it becomes like a very predictable fixed money machine. That's the passive income people talk about on Amazon, but that's how it actually comes to be.
What is your process of even figuring out what those keywords are? Like, are you literally just brainstorming? Is there like a tool that you're using to figure out like what are the most relevant keywords?
Helium 10 is that software I talked about earlier. When you put in like the main hero keyword, like beef tallow, and then they'll show you all the relevant words related. And then you can also take whoever's top in the category, put their product in there, and then Amazon will show you their entire, like where they're being bought. And then you just build a list from there, and that's your go forward.
Yeah. I think actually it's interesting actually hearing you break down the Amazon thing, because I've only used Amazon as a consumer.
Yeah.
And so as a consumer, I don't know, if you're looking for a mattress, you type in mattress and you'll see like a certain options in the top, and you'll see like the sponsored the result, and then you'll see the ones that are organic.
Yep. And you're like, oh, I like this organic one. What the fuck?
Yeah.
And you often buy one of the ones on the first.
The organic ones is usually because they have the most reviews. They have,
and you don't go much further. Like you often buy one of the top 3 to 6 listings.
Or like Amazon Choice, or like they. Okay.
Yep. It's like genius, bro. Like mushrooms. Like I launched that 6 years ago. You go search mushroom supplement, it is still there. Number 1, organic, 50,000 reviews, doing damn near $1 million a month. And that's like the power of this platform, and that really is like recurring passive income. Yeah. Because it's organically, Amazon's only getting bigger. More people are searching mushroom supplement, and you're sitting there number 1.
Yeah. Okay. So if you wanted to because that number 1 spot is so coveted, that's it's a gold mine, right? So if you wanted to get to that number 1 spot, can you do it through just buying the right keywords and having a great product?
If we want to get really technical here, Amazon's algorithm has a 90-day look back. And so the chances of Joe Blow coming in and knocking off Genius Mushrooms is 0. Like it's like actually 0, because the one product with 50,000 reviews is always going to convert better relevant to that search. Like just period. No one's going to even take the time to find out that product's better. There's just so much velocity on being number 1. Like it's like a loop, right? Like you are just up there. And so the new gold comes on like, hey, beef tallow is a brand new thing. There's no one there. Like literally no one. It's like a sprint, right? To who we see this category is getting bigger. Because when I started mushrooms, there was like 20,000 searches a month. It wasn't a lot. Now there's like hundreds of thousands of searches, a month. And so to be there at the top is where like this permanent money is being made. Now with that in mind, the great equalizer and why this is like such a unique time to be building is this next point that you're going to get into. TikTok has like fundamentally changed the way people are searching for stuff and buying stuff. And so if you start popping off Amazon on short form content, and it's not just TikTok, it can be Instagram, it can be Reels, but we're serviced this content all day. If you can get velocity off of Amazon, and people come to Amazon and search for you, Amazon just starts rewarding the hell out of you. So for the first time ever, some of these like really historic categories are being threatened. Like for the first time ever, if you mastered this off Amazon thing, if you could get, for example, we have like one brand that I'm not public with, but it's by far our biggest one. We're getting, I want to say like 90 million searches, or excuse me, 600 million views on TikTok per month, which is insane. And it's equating to like 200,000+ people searching on Amazon. Amazon puts that right to the top of everything because they go, this shit is so hot, everyone wants it. And the conversion's way higher because they already saw it off here. And so it's been a cheat code for disrupting historically entrenched categories. But hey, you put them both together, you get the new hot category, you're already sitting at the top, and you crack this off Amazon piece. That's how you do. I misspoke. It was 1.3 million last month in our fifth month of business.
So you're kind of looking for that like perfect combination of like, there's not a super entrenched product in this category yet that's taking up, like that's got that number one spot locked in. And then you're also looking for something like, if we were to market it on TikTok or any of these like short form platforms,
we'd still win.
It could go.
Okay. And you're trying to find it like you go look at exploding topics theoretically, because you don't know how it shakes out, but you're hoping it's at the start of an upward swing. And that's what beef tallow was. Like when he found it, it was like, okay, this is cool. You know, you're still taking a little risk. It's not enough, like, but that's the nice part. Even if the category doesn't go up, it's still enough that like, okay, you'd have a winner. But then when it goes up, you have one that like,
it's like a super hit. Like you just
super hit.
Like it's going crazy.
I mean, think about that. Just in month 4 to have a brand new business that's done 1.3 million in Amazon sales on a brand new business, like super profitable. That is like, it's not heard of, you know?
Yeah.
And that's this like magic, so to speak.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. You know what? Because the question then, it becomes, so even in the inception of the product, like when we talk about finding a winning product, I'm assuming then, and it makes sense now why you talk about going on TikTok and going on Instagram and all this stuff for inspiration, because you're also trying to figure out is there happening? Like virality, or like is there the potential that this sort of product could go viral? That's like actually part of your thinking right in the beginning.
So, yeah, kind of. Yes, it really comes down to the ability to market it. Like I think a lot of things can go viral if they're marketed right. Like a spatula won't go viral. But if there's some angle where I talk about this a lot, people attack me for it, but speaking to insecurities, like, you know, your skin's dry or you're aging faster, that is a inherently attention grabbing angle that will make a product go viral. Does that make sense? Like,
I'm going to read out one of your posts. You said, I've made over $100 million in online sales. You'll make the most money by selling to people's desires or insecurities. Sell to men's lust. Sell to women's desire for beauty. Sell to aging people insecurity. Every group has an obsessive desire.
That makes me sound really
you don't sound great, dude.
Machiavellian. But it's the truth. And I have a reel that expands upon this where it's like, I'm choosing to do good with that. Like I would rather take something like, we have like caffeine pouches. Everyone's taking Zins right now, right? And it's like, Zins are not good for you. Let me highlight the insecurity and sell you a natural solution. It's like half the time, all of these same angles are exploiting like Viagra, right? Like that's how Viagra is sold. Let me highlight the problem and then sell a natural solution. So that's the ethical piece of it. Not saying, again, I wouldn't sell Viagra or whatever. Like, no, I'm kidding. But those are the angles that work. That's how human biology, that's how we exist online. Like we have problems and we want solutions. And from a marketing perspective, that's how you think about it. You don't scream, my product's so good, my product's so good, my product's so good. Nobody cares. You don't just keep talking. No one stops to listen to who wants to be sold online? Literally nobody wants to be sold to online. Like it's the last thing anyone wants. What they want is, someone's aware of the issues I'm dealing with, and they happen to have a solution too. I'll watch that. That's how the content works.
Speak to human desire. Yeah. You know what's funny? Actually, I don't know if you will know this. You're so into the music. I feel like you might do. I want to say it was in All Falls Down, the Kanye song. I feel like he has a song about that, about like the girl that just wanted a Lexus.
We all
or
self-conscious. I'm just the first to admit it.
Yeah, like kind of like that's how like marketing works.
It's true. Bro, why does anyone pay? You know, the market for Chanel bags. A Chanel bag is $10,000, right? And like, why does that exist? Why doesn't someone go buy the same leather bag without that Chanel logo? It's because the guy buying it thinks he's going to get laid and reproduce, and the girl who has it just signaled to all the other girls she's higher status. And the amount of money people are willing to spend on that concept is fucking insane. There's Birkin bags that go for hundreds of thousands of dollars with that same thing in mind. It's not that you really like the ostrich skin.
Yeah.
No, you're the fucking guy. And her, she's like, I'm very worth it.
Yeah.
And that's it. Like, that's the innate biological desire.
Yeah.
Wait till I get into fashion, huh? It'd be interesting.
It feeds into the base human desire.
It does. Everything does, really.
Yeah.
Like, you think about, not to get too far off topic, but one thing I'll be talking about more is Rene Girard. He's got this framework that humans don't know what they want in modern society. So they want what others want, like period. Like something. And so with that in mind, as a brand owner or a marketer, your job is to influence the influencers. Why is Chrome Hearts having a huge year? It's like, oh, Drake likes Chrome Hearts. He did the post with it. Or, oh, Kim Kardashian did this. And Kanye realized that, right? He realized, oh, we are the culture. We are the influence. We're not making the money. Hold on. Like, let me start easy.
That makes sense.
And that concept is like, it's so beautiful and it's powerful.
Yeah.
The sooner you understand it. Like,
yeah. It's almost like, look to where the influence is. I think it's even, I'm seeing it now with the streamers. You're seeing all the rappers, all the celebrities want to go on the streamers.
Bro, if you want a song to go viral, you go play it on Aiden and Kaizen. Like and on that same note, it's like now the fashion houses are trying to get in with those guys. Like Kai's been, man, like he lit. Like he dressed like, but it's intentional, right? Yeah. It's like, yeah.
That's where the influence is. You know what? Okay, so we spoke about TikTok, and I think the value of TikTok in that content can just go viral out of nowhere on TikTok.
Yeah.
But step 5, and I'll read this out, is we paid 30 creators $500 a month to make TikTok videos to drive traffic to Amazon. So there's actually a process and a very unique, specific way that you use TikTok. Mm-hmm. So talk to me more about that process, that we paid 30 creators $500 a month.
So first, everyone needs to understand that TikTok is a discovery platform. Instagram was like a loyalist platform. Like, how many followers you have on Instagram matters, right? Like, just through the old world. TikTok changed everything with the ability to go viral with literally nobody knowing who you are, right? And when the app first blew up, it created new superstars like, I don't know, like some of these people exist because of that concept. And to this day, most brands are playing TikTok as if it were Instagram. They're making content from their own thing. They're trying to bring people back to their TikTok. And it's like, eventually that just runs out. Like, you can have a TikTok with 100,000 followers and 1,000 views because your content sucks. And so we've gamified it in the sense of, we want 30 new accounts and 30 swings at bat every single day. And if one of those videos goes viral, people are going to buy the product like elsewhere. Like, they don't need to come back to that page. They are going to see, how many times have you been scrolling through TikTok, or maybe you don't use TikTok much, but like you see something and you have no idea where it came from, or you see a story and you're not like, oh, that was this guy, or oh, that was that. But the idea was discovered on TikTok, right? It's like a place to get cheap views, because those numbers right there, that one brand I told you, we're getting hundreds of millions of views for like $100,000 a month. Like, hundreds of millions of views on Amazon would cost me millions, like literally millions. So the alpha, if you can get enough creators and help them make the right content, is insane. That's where the money's being made. But it's all about cheap. It's about understanding TikTok as a discovery platform, executing this playbook, and then having all the other pieces right. One thing I got to mention: everyone's still, when we say creators, people think like UGC or like influencers.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah,
it's not that at all. So, some can be, like, some are talking about a product in front of the screen, but bro, it's everything from like AI voiceovers to like fear-driven skits to, it is the most random hodgepodge of different, content attempts, with 9 out of 10 going absolutely bust. Like 9 out of 10 of these videos get no views whatsoever. And then you get one video with 10 million views and you just sold out your production run. You go, oh, this strategy works. How do we turn it into a system? And so that's kind of the whole game. And when you think about getting creators, one of the reasons people love to say, like, oh, if this is so good, why are you talking about it? Why are you sharing these secrets online? A lot of the great creators are, like, I don't want to say owned by us. They come from our ecosystem. So my partner, Jimmy, he trains people to make content like this. And if you get good, it's lucrative. I think we talked about that last time. Like, you can make good money. And Creators Corner is his ecosystem. And so a lot of the talent comes out there. And so the show to this game largely kind of runs through our world. That's why we have the investment branch. Like I'm in, Evil Goods was an investment. We made 7 investments in different brands and then help bring them creators. If you're doing this from complete scratch, like, work your way into our world. Like this, find Creators Corner. We have a cheaper one called Your First Dollar, like $50 a month, that introduces people into making content. Because there's not enough creators right now. That's the alpha. Like the supply demand doesn't match. So a handful of brands have the creators, and like a lot of them are looking for it.
So when one of these videos goes viral, I guess the way that it then links back,
it doesn't even link.
There's not even
half
like
the time
a
it doesn't
CTA
even
or
no.
like they're just displaying the product, or like how does it come back?
Like a lot of time, the net result of the thing is like, oh shit, this product changed my life, or like, oh whatever, right? And people go Google or they Amazon.
Okay.
And it's like actually that straightforward. And sometimes we'll try to like, oh, I just bought this on Amazon or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Like you try to lead them there, but you'd be shocked at like, which makes tracking hard sometimes.
Yeah.
But again,
you have no idea where it's coming from.
Yeah, but when you're doing this from scratch and all of a sudden all these people are searching Evil Goods, like we have like a really clear framework. It's like if you're getting millions of views on TikTok, you are getting hundreds of thousands over here, and the conversion is like 20%. Like it's insane.
Yeah.
And that's kind of
even in like the packaging, like the naming of the brand, is that very intentional? So that like if I do see it in a 20-second, 30-second video, I'm gonna remember. I'm like, oh, that's how it looked. It was, or that was the name of it.
We have the luxury right now of getting to be really creative with just, you want it to stand out. You want it to be different from everything else on the shelf. That's why I mentioned it doesn't look like a skincare product, right? And so it automatically
you remember it.
And the thought process on that is like, you want someone to understand it and see it within 3 seconds and be willing to buy it within like 10 to 15. And kind of you're setting out on the branding, that's how we think about it.
Yeah. That's so interesting. That's interesting. You know what? You must hear so many people that like, they want to do some of the things that you've done. Like they want to build these brands. They come in with so much energy, an obsession, a fire for it. Like a lot of the same things that you came into it with, but it just doesn't work for them for one reason or another. In your mind, when you hear these stories and what went wrong, like what tends to hold people back? Like what is actually stopping people from getting to this place? Because what you laid out is like 5 steps.
It's so straightforward. It's so straightforward. I think step 2 is where you lose a lot of people. It takes months to develop this product. Like actually, I think people have crazy expectations in their head, and motivation only takes you so far. Like I try to work around. That's why I'm like, pick a thing you like and all this, because motivation comes and goes. For me, I am not motivated every day. Right? It's like the Jocko thing. You need discipline when motivation's not there. And people bank on motivation. Half the time, joining a program to them is the same as winning. Like that, they took action, but they're disconnected from the time horizon and what it actually takes. That's why I like you asked that question about what does it actually look like to build this company. Like I was a mess with Genius, right? It wasn't glamorous. And I think that's where the huge disconnect is. We have not had anyone go all the way through, like from, I've been doing $1 Million Brand Club 18 months. We have not had anyone launch and not do at least modestly well. And we've had a lot of people do extremely well. The disconnect is they join and they stop because they realize, oh, this is like more than I thought. I'm kind of busy. I'm kind of this. I'm kind of that. But that is by far the biggest thing. It's like the disconnection from how long it'll actually take and what it actually takes.
Yeah. When you were building Genius, I'm just curious, and I think it relates to me, it relates to a lot of people that are building something. Was it lonely?
No. It was the most connected I ever felt. It was connected to myself. And this was like another realization I've had lately. We have this idea in our minds that like relationships and connections are like everything. Love in particular. Like everyone's looking for their soulmate or love or this and that. And the unhappiness comes from the expectation that that's out there and we're going to find it. When the truth is that you're happiest and most connected when you are becoming who you need to be. And in the trenches and the throes of building a business, you are so in tune with fulfilling your destiny, with finding your glory, you're good. You don't need anybody. And when you don't need anybody, I think, is when you're most powerful. And when you don't need anybody is when you attract the right people, because then the relationships internally that came from that company are there for life. Like you're bringing the people that want the same thing. You're bringing people that are motivated. And it was like a really special time that I'm kind of stepping into again. Like I've spent a lot of time thinking about like love and like, you know, like soulmate or whatever. And the end takeaway is like, it's us and us at the end of the day. Like it's you at the end of the day, and learning to love you and becoming who you are is the answer to that. Does that make sense? Like it was kind of a crazy fucking answer.
What you said makes complete sense. But I had to ask this follow-up question, which is, how much of you saying that is in hindsight? Like as you're going through and you're actually experiencing what that means, and the day to day and the ups and downs, and there's so many ups and downs to building something. How much of you saying that is in hindsight of like,
my brother, it is completely in hindsight. Every single, like this is a realization I'm coming to over the last couple of weeks. You want to hear something crazy? I've been with my wife 13 years. I don't think my wife's ever been in love with me. I think we had a great partnership and connection, and like we have a lot of love for each other. I don't think there's ever been that like, oh my God, this is my soulmate or this and that. And I started to realize this over the past year, and it created this, like, I never felt so alone. And all of a sudden I needed people and I needed relationships, and I sought all these things out that at the end of the day, we're trying to fill a void of me loving me. Like what were my issues with myself, right? And how do I improve those? And like, that's what I told you. I've been through a lot of introspective stuff on this rise, because my life has literally never been better. Like the numbers and I'm so in tune with all of these great things that I stopped and I was like, whoa, wait, maybe I want to fall in love or this and that. And when I tell you the universe brought me to that conclusion, that like it's you and your purpose and loving you, and when you die, it'll just be you. I promise you the message has never been like so like screaming at me. I'll give you the short version of this story without hijacking it. Every time in my life since the release of The Weeknd's Starboy, I have got an album when I needed it. Like whenever I'm going through some like season, like change in life, like some dramatic event, I'll get an album, and damn near like some songs are like literally, it's like, oh my God, I wrote this, or like what? It's like this weird,
it's like speaking to you.
It is bizarre. And that text you told me before this is like a lot of things coming full circle, but the whole Kendrick Drake thing goes down. And you've heard me, I've modeled a lot of my social media on like Drake's approach over the last year, and it's like super effective, and he's a genius. And then there was the kind of deconstruction of him as a person via Kendrick, and it brought me back to the appreciation of Kendrick. And I went back and listened to some old stuff. I'm like, whoa, this is way deeper than I thought. And as I'm going through some of this more personal stuff, he releases his new album, which is like, it's pretty good. You know, I'm listening to the whole thing, and again, I'm going through something with relationships, and I mean, yeah, I'm finding out maybe my wife doesn't love me, right? Like it's crazy. And the last song on that album, it's called Gloria. And Kendrick's talked a lot about his relationship with his fiance. She reminds me of my wife, like super selfless, but, you know, has sacrificed her own self to see Kendrick at a certain place. Like she knows he's this genius, and he like needs this space, and he hasn't treated her right, and he's had a lust addiction and all this shitty stuff. And I'm like, God, that's sickening, right? Like I felt that. And Callum's like, man, I didn't know I was gonna be his therapist today. But the last song of this new album is a song called Gloria. And I'm like, okay, what's up with this? And the song is 5 minutes of this like relationship back and forth. You feel like he's talking to a girl, you know, and it's like, she pulled me out of this and she made me become who I am. There's even a bar in there where he's like, remember when my granny died, you said, baby, don't, you know, dry your eyes, pour into me, like da-da-da. And like that was literally like, my grandma died. Like I went through, did I tell that story last time? It was like it was a real thing. That's a line in there. And then at the end of the song, he's not talking about any girl. The whole song is about his pen, and Gloria is glory, and him pouring into this himself, like this ruthless, and it was insane. And I heard that and I was just like, okay, that's maybe largely the answer to a lot of this stuff, you know? And it's like, you can't script that stuff. And I don't know.
Yeah. There's this quote, I've been saying it so much recently, and maybe it's also the time that I'm at in my life, which is, when the student is ready, the master shall appear.
Yeah.
Which is just, it's that exact idea that you spoke to, which is like, and it's interesting because sometimes someone will even like recommend to you like an album or like a book, like you should read this book will change your life. You start reading it, you're like, this is kind of like, I don't really get it. Like you're not at a place yet in life where you can digest that information. It just goes over your head. And then you read it I've had this a few times. You read it a few years later, you're like, this shit is brilliant.
Yeah.
It like directly speaks to my experience right now. And it's back to that quote. It's like, when the student is ready, the master shall appear.
And that's actually like the Kendrick album before this one, I re-got into like 2 months before this, as I'm kind of like understanding myself a little bit better. And I go, oh, I have like serious insecurities around these things that happened to me have resulted in me wanting to treat women this way or wanting to be petty towards that person for whatever reason. And it's like, he captures that in the work in an insane way that, like I said, the average listener, like it just falls blank on some people, or on most people. And then the person that needed to hear that at the right time, you're just like, wow, that's insane. And I don't know, like music's powerful, art's powerful. It's just, again, it ties back to this message. I feel it's important. I'm doing what I am doing now because the more artistry, the more people that release and share their experiences and create, the better the world's going to be. Like, period. The more willing we are to be in tune with, like, this is hard shit. Like, it's not easy. But what's the alternative? It's that quiet desperation. It would be easier for me to live my next 50 years pretending like, oh, like love and this and like, but it's not reality, right? And it's not easy stuff.
Yeah. You know, it's interesting. So even as you were saying, I think you got it exactly correct, right? Exactly correct, which is like human connection is like a beautiful thing. And like I remember we had a guest come on the show and they said this, because they were so scared to start a business. And like at the time she was working in Wall Street, but she was really scared to like leave her prestigious banking job to go start this business from scratch. And then she realized, or someone told her, they're like, you can't hide your gift from the world. And I think about that. I'm like, how many people are hiding their gift from the world?
Just look at the numbers, like all of them, damn near. Not all of them, but like
a lot.
It's so like, just even the fact I'm willing to say what I want or be able to say these things, it's like shocking because no one, like, it's just, like, I feel like it shouldn't be shocking to wear a sweat, you know, to dress a certain way and talk business content or whatever, but like it is, because people aren't living their truth, because it is easier to not. It is easier. But at the end, when it's all said and done, like when you're on your deathbed, it's not going to be a good feeling.
Yeah.
You know?
You know what, we here's where I want to end, because we spoke about the 18-year-old version. You mentioned it earlier, like when you were 18, some of the things you're doing now you would have dreamed of. I don't know, I'm curious, like if we went back those 14, 15 years, and the Rob Oliver who's sitting in front of me now had to have a conversation with that Rob Oliver at 18 years old, and you could only tell him one thing. It was a brief conversation. I'm just curious where it would go. Like, what would you say?
I would tell him never lose faith. Ever. Never lose faith under any circumstances. Like, again, if that was my one sentence I could say, I would teleport back and say that, and he would know exactly what I'm talking about. But it's that self-belief and that willingness to dream and then go actually do it and not care what others, say. That's what I would say. If there was more, I'd throw in a little tidbit about, like, your parents mean well. They're scared. Like, they don't want to see you, go to uncomfortable places, uncomfortable growth. But at the end of the day, like, do it for you.
Yeah.
Do what you're supposed to.
Yeah. I love it. Rob Oliver, thank you so much, man.
Always, brother.
Pleasure.